And for me, that was, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Like I knew exactly, like video games were my passion as entertainment station. That was the first difference to answer your question. The first difference with the US is like in the US, when I moved there in 2009, it was a lot of specialization. Big teams, although I work with Sony, I work with Microsoft, we work with Nintendo, or release game for all of the platforms. You need to focus on the core mechanics that makes you want to play and replay your game.
Okay, so hi everyone, this is Duke from Fungi. So with me today we have Martin Repetto, who is the CEO and founder of Mokens League. Tremendous guy. I'm super excited for this interview, and welcome Martin. Can you tell our audience a bit about yourself, your career?
Hey, what's up, Duke? Thank you for having me. First of all, I love that you're actually doing this show. Yeah, so let's do a quick intro. So I'm Martin Repetto. My background is in, of course, computer science. Been playing video games since as long as I can remember. I took that passion into, of course, building my career out of it. I'm also an ex-professional video games player, play FIFA and Counter Strike for many years over. Had gaming houses, so I have, you could say that I have a split career between playing video games and developing video games. Originally from Argentina, but I made my career in the Silicon Valley. Although I have to say that my first feat was to build one of the first, I would say, top two to top three games made in Argentina back in the day, because and I'm saying top three because it was actually the third game ever built in Argentina that it was actually commercially distributed internationally. It was a great feat that sort of started to put me on the map in the sort of a Latin American video game developer community. I joined the very early beginnings of the Argentinian Association for Video Game Development. We did a lot of heavy lifting there. Today is a massive industry, is one of the largest entertainment industry in our country and also in the region. And then I moved to the US. I lived in San Francisco for many years, built my career in the Valley. We're able to participate in very interesting projects, a lot of failures and some hits as well. We were able to come up with very successful titles played by over 100 million people in the world. So that's me in a nutshell. 25 years of career now living in Barcelona, where my mother is originally from, and my father from Italy. So like any Argentinian out there, we're either of Italian or Spanish descent. And now I'm here in Europe, building a new company, a new game that we're probably going to talk about it.
So you were born in Argentina, right?
Yeah, correct. I'm originally from Argentina, but Argentina is a land of immigrants. Basically, everybody's an immigrant there, or an immigrant descent, and yeah, so it's very common to be either from Spain or Italy. Like I would say, 90% of the population it has that. First generation though, or second generation.
And how was your childhood was shaped by video games? Like, what were your earliest memories playing video games, making video games?
Yeah, so I have a very vivid. I started playing video games with the Atari 2600, and I was able to actually have a barbecue with Nolan Bushnell when I was living so a dream sort of came true. So I started playing Atari games, and it was really hard to come by in Argentina in the 80s. It was super hard to actually get a video game console or anything like that. So it was all arcades and then this. But I remember vividly, the year was 86, 87, when we were actually becoming world champions with soccer, and everybody was going crazy. And one time, I don't remember the exact year, I woke up to go to school, and I had a Commodore 64 plug in to my CRT, black and white television set that we had, and it was waiting for me, and with a data set, and we don't even have diskettes at that time, and it was like my mom said, okay, this is your anticipated birthday, because I was reading everything that I can about computers. And they got me this. And for me, it was like, okay, I didn't went to school that day. I started to program in Lego, and my life flipped over. I started building my own software when I was like not even 10 years old. And for me, that was, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Like I knew exactly, like video games were my passion as entertainment. And I was buy these PC magazine, and I was write the code from Friday afternoon until Sunday noon, where the code was ready. So I was able to play my own video games on Sunday afternoon. You know what I mean? Like it was crazy, and that's how it all started in my career. I went to college and got a BS in computer science, and from there, I mean, I did everything, man. I used to do. My first job was actually communications. I worked for a big telecom. I was doing fiber optics, 400 kilometers fiber optic connection. So that was like, I started there, and I built a startup, for building video games. It was like funded by my other work, and that's sort of how I started to because VCs and investment and all of that, I don't even knew what. I don't even understand that. I was when I was like, I don't know, 18, 20 years old. So yeah, so that's kind of crazy.
So you were on basically two continents, or even three, like North America,
Yeah.
South America, Europe now. What are the differences in game making between those continents? Between
Oh my God.
Silicon Valley, US companies, and European companies, and South American companies? Biggest
What a great
differences.
question, dude. That's a great question. So when I was year was 2004, I think, when we were making the Elixir. It was the first game that we've ever developed and published. I was in Argentina. We were developing with the Torquay game engine. It was a game engine back in the day. I don't know if you were able to use it. We were building games with very US based. Like we were consuming everything from US forums. Like there's not Reddit area or era or something like that. There was nothing. So it's all forums. We're learning there, and our way of developing games in South America was very US wannabe, right? With a lot of caveats because and a lot of strengths. In Argentina, piracy was rampant, like the Middle East and Russia and all these
Same in
countries. Like
Poland, man.
right, right. But that was actually because we couldn't even afford software. Like in our country was still, it's a rich country with a lot of poor people because of our political system, and we couldn't even, we could buy a computer, but you couldn't buy the software. You just couldn't. You know what I mean? So everything was, piracy, and we were able to learn a lot of software, how to operate different software. Like a designer in Argentina, like a game artist in Argentina, you will know today, right? You'll know Photoshop, ZBrush, Illustrator, Figma, Animate. We know to do a lot of things. Like I know a lot of things. I can model, I can texture, I can rig, I can animate, and I can code. And that was like the norm. Like a game developer in Argentina will have to know to use all of the software. There were no specialization. That was the first difference. To answer your question, the first difference with the US is like in the US, when I moved there in 2009, it was a lot of specialization. Big teams, specialized, great quality, because everybody was doing their own thing at a very high level. And the guys that do Photoshop, they do Photoshop. They will do either, they do texturing or whatever. The guys that rig, the guys that animate, the guys that code gameplay. Then you have UI programmers. Then you have, back system engineer programmer or multiple, whatever. In Argentina, it was like a more, wear a lot of hats, like, multiple hats, and you have to do everything. And more of a startup mentality, right? That's why, I could never actually fit at the corporation level. Although I work with Sony, I work with Microsoft, we work with Nintendo, a release game for all of the platforms. But, my head was always on the, let's, sleep in the office and do whatever we need to do to get these out of the kitchen into the consumer hands, right? So I would say that the first major change that I noticed between South America, because it's not just Argentina, Brazil was the same thing, Uruguay, Chile was all the same thing. Between the US is like they had a completely different approach to piracy, to specialization, and to granularity. And the process, what I call the Ford like pipeline process of production, was of course much better in the US than it was in our case. And, we could produce very high quality stuff with very limited resources, and that was actually something that in the US it was really well paid. I couldn't, I went my first trip to the US. I raised $2 million, and I started a company of 35 to 50 something people in Argentina with the funds in the US, because I completely understood that with the money I could go way longer in Argentina with a hacker team that I would do in the US with all these kids that were a little bit spoiled and not wanting to work that hard. You know what I mean? Like a different culture, complete different culture. In Argentina and Eastern Europe, I found grinders, and I built the best products in my life with people from either South America or the Eastern Europe or Europe. Not because of the US doesn't have amazing people. It does. It has the best people, but they are so much more expensive, right? So what I found was that like building in Argentina was more hardcore, and it was more professional in the US. And I would say Europe, in the past 3 years that I launched this startup and we are working on this startup, what I found is that people here is a combination of both, but the younger generation, they were born in what I call they're part of the crystal generation. They're not used to what we were used to, or even the US used to the grind era of video game development, the 90s era, the shareware era, the CD-ROM era, you know what I mean? Like the beginning of the download era. These guys were born with an iPad, you know what I mean? So it's a different type of mentality. It's not better or worse. It's just different. But it's okay for this part of my life that I'm older and I have a lot of experience. I know that all these people that I have here and I know here, I can share my experience with them. And since everything sort of works here in Europe for the most part, compared to what I come from, it's easier for them to get a good quality with less effort, but also it's a little bit shallow, but they don't go the extra mile because they just go on vacation, they go time off, they go to the beach, they go to, which is okay, it's a little bit of an envy on me, you know what I mean? Like I didn't have any of that. Like for me, it was like grind, and then a little bit more grind. Here is like we go to work, we do what we have to do, it's good, and now we go to the office and to the beach or to have fun, which is much better, I have to say. So I would say Europe is a balance between the US and South America because of the different cultures, and it's also a balance of cost ratio. In the US it's super expensive, Europe is expensive, South America is a little bit less expensive. Now it's getting more expensive because the quality has been going up. So it's sort of balanced. So if you ask me, I do think that Europe is the best of both worlds right now, because you can teach the grind on a good setting. The setting is important. Like having the people to not worry about losing their jobs or being more stable emotionally and more stable economically allows you to produce better product without having to crunch, without having to burn people out, and not having people to constantly be looking for another job or something like that. So I would say that Europe has the best of everything, but of course, US has a lot of strengths, and South America as well.
Yeah, and you worked for big companies, smaller startups. You have your own company, obviously, right now. What were your surprises when you went on your own? You started out with a big company, right?
Yeah. So my experience, like I'm an entrepreneur. So I would say that 85% of my career I spent building companies. For whatever reason, I had experience of working on very large US corporations because at one time we sold a company and I became a part of a very, very large, of course, very known group. And I worked inside a very large corporation and I learned a lot. And then during the pandemic, which I actually, before my last start, no, sorry, after my last startup, not this one, the past one, I actually retired, but I was actually too young to retire. And when the pandemic hit, I was actually retired. But I started working for a biotech company. It has nothing to do with gaming. I work for a biotech company, one of these very large U.S. companies that had a lot of things going on with the COVID. They were searching at one end for the COVID vaccine, but on another end, they had to keep their business running and move everything that they have on retail to e-commerce because that would happen in the pandemic. So actually joined a very large public American company that were, I thought that we were doing this good for the world, which in part I think we did. And I worked like 2 years during the pandemic for a large corporation. And what I found, that was like my longest experience with a corporation that is not gaming. And what I found is that I needed to get back to gaming startup. Like life was like the pandemic was like this reveal, like, dude, you're too young to retire and life is just too short. And you need to go back to doing what you know how to do, which is building video game startups. And I quit this company and started Mokens, which is my last startup. So I would say that in a nutshell, I repeat this in every talk that I give. I completely understand why large corporations work is because they use a lot of people to do whatever task that we startup people do with much less people. But since they use a lot more people doing simpler tasks, they can achieve more quality. Because if you're just doing something that is easy and you have a lot of time to do, and that's your only responsibility, chances are that you're going to do that task really well. And you have less time and much more pressure, and you have to do complicated stuff, which is a startup, right? So the chance of failure or not achieving a great quality, it's hard. You have less probability, right? So that's what I found out. Like, oh, I see. If you have a 300 people team and you have 150 artists and you atomize all of these tasks, you're gonna get a fantastic quality because you have a lot of people getting good salaries doing very simple tasks. So when you add up all of that together, you have amazing quality. So I understood that, which is not my world. My world is like we wear multiple hats. We try to do the best thing we can while saving all the money that we can. And that's not the corporate world. The corporate world, I was in charge of hiring people. I built an 85 people team, by the way, and buying stuff and hiring people. And my budget was like basically unlimited. And I never had that. You know what I mean? So you end up paying very, very expensive stuff for anything, like for whatever, antivirus software. Yeah, give me the enterprise packet. Yeah, just here's a credit card. You know what I mean? Like that's an example, but that was like the case. And that now I understand why, big corporations in gaming, they are able to achieve the quality that they achieve because they employ thousands of people to do like this one game. But then again, that's not a guarantee of success, because if we look at the video gaming industry with a real critical eye, you will see that even now these games that are AAA, that are the most played games in the world, they've, when we talk about real-time multiplayer, for example, just to pick one genre, the games are the top 5 or top 3. They are coming from the modding community, not even an indie startup, from the modding community, for communities that were not even companies. We're talking about Dota, we're talking about, League of Legends. Of course, now they are AAA companies, but when they started, they were a mod. They were not even a game. PUBG was a mod of Arma 3. Counter-Strike was a mod of Half-Life. Then, of course, they become to what we know right now, a massive amount of people, money working on this product, and they're AAA. But the core was built by the indie company, right? So 85% of the games that are being played today, they're coming from the indie development world. They've been acquired, absorbed, or whatever, and they put in this umbrella of professionalism, right? But there's just a handful of companies like Nintendo, for example, one of them, that were always a corporation that were able to create entertainment products that were played by millions, that were built professionally by a large group of people. That's very little people. The story of the video game industry is our gamers building games that they want to play, that then they became Counter-Strike or whatever. But at one point, they were just a prototype. And we see this year on year. We saw Among Us. We saw Little Company, like just released, and many other games. Stumble Guys, for example, coming out of a studio that I know very well. So we see this all the time. All the time we see handful of people either modding something or right now downloading Unreal or Unity and learning it really quickly and come up with a game with just a few developers, or maybe a team of 20, 30 people, which is nothing. We are a team of 24 and we are a very small startup, a very small startup. So that's my take. Like what I think that the industry, and this has to not be forgotten, because what happens is when you forgot about this, then you have $200 million titles that get released and they got 2 stars or 3 stars, or nobody wants to play them because those games were built by basically employees and corporations. You know what I mean? They're not built by gamers that want to play that game. And there's a plethora of those games. There's a graveyard of amazingly produced games that nobody plays. And there's just a handful of games that are still being played today. We're talking about hundreds of thousand players per day. And all of those games, top 5 maybe, are built by communities. Now taken by corporations, but built by community gamers. And the list is long, guys. The list is long. MOBA as a genre, completely. You know what I mean? Like first-person tactical shooters as a genre. Because Fortnite, that people now, talk about Fortnite. Fortnite was a zombie, so it was tower defense with zombies. You know what I mean? Single player, mostly, or team player when it launched in 2017. That pivoted to copy PUBG, which was a mod of Arma 3. You know what I mean? And DayZ. So what are we talking about? We're talking about that gamers that game that coming from a startup world or gaming communities, these are the guys that know how to build games. Corporations, they provide the funding, they provide the infrastructure, they provide like everything that we don't have. And that's how it works.
Yeah, I think it comes down to probability, I think. I perfectly remember the times of Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne, Dota was born, but there were like hundreds of other modes, like exactly the same thing, Arma, hundreds of other modes. And so when you have hundreds of mods, millions and millions of people playing the game, producing hundreds of mods, they're bound to be one success. When you have your own company funding, you tend to have like one idea that you have to execute on that, and you're not even sure if it's going to be a hit or a miss. And so that comes down to Mokens League. How was that born? How was the idea born? How did all the NFT craze affect the fundraising as well?
Yeah, so that's what you said is exactly right. I mean, the main issue that we have when we're building a startup, video game startup, is that we cannot prototype and try many different things. You know what I mean? At some point, you have to decide on a path. Like even big companies today, like Rovio, like Rovio, Angry Birds was actually game 51 on that company. You know what I mean? They were able to survive doing other things until they nailed it. And that's amazing, right? So for us, our project started in 2012. Not a lot of people know this. It was called OSG. That was our internal code that me and Max, my co-founder, also cousin, that we've been, of course, all of our life working together. We had in 2012, and I had the idea, the original manifesto, that I wanted to build an online soccer game. Originally, that was like 5-on-5. Like, it's very similar to a Moken idea, but it has nothing to do with what it is today. So we had this idea back in the day, and we had to postpone it several times exactly because of what you were saying. Because at some point, you need to decide what are you going to do that it will render either a positive result or is what the investor wants to invest on. In OSG, which is, again, Mokens League, was put on the shelf 3 times. I mean, 3 companies ago in 2012. It's because we did other things that were actually, of course, we were successful, and that's why we could take on 2021, we say, we can self-fund an MVP for Mokens League because now we can do that. We were successful. We made an exit, yada, yada. We have some money. Why don't we, bring the back band together? We create a prototype and we see if we like it. And if we like it, we go raise money. And by the way, there is this thing called the NFT craziness, you know what I mean? Like crypto. And we were in crypto since 2013. So we were not new to crypto. We are not new to crypto. So we launched Bachelor in 2015 in the United States, which was a Minecraft-like thing for VR, right? Which is VR was a big thing, was not crypto, was VR. 2014, everybody was talking about VR. And I love VR. I love it. I have all of the VR devices out there. I just love it. And we were, having this project, and my investor at the time and I, it was a guru from the 1.0 era. It was Halsey Minor, founder of CNET, among other things, Google Voice, CNET, OpenDNS, like many Atmosphere we did together. So he said, why don't we, build a crypto? And I said, oh my God, I was already buying Bitcoin. And so I told him, like, yeah, so we need to start pairing gaming and crypto. They go hand in hand. It was, for me, the year was 2014. It was very clear to me because it's the democratization of gamers. Like gamers, we are chained to these corporations, whether it's like Steam or, you can, anyone, it's centralized. Gaming is centralized. They get all the leftovers of all of the wallets, and you cannot take them out. There were a lot of things that crypto would solve for gaming. And we said, okay, you could build your worlds, you can share them online, you can rent them, you can sell them, whatever. And by the way, we're going to use a crypto. We fork the Litecoin core. We built our own wallet, our own pool mining, our own everything. And we did an ICO in 2015 with this idea of starting to democratize, this is pre-CryptoKitties, like pre-everything. We were not even thinking about NFTs. We're just thinking about a token that people would use to commercialize inside our game. That was, very, very, very simple idea to bring the traditional soft currencies into a hard currency that it was actually blockchain powered. Very simple. And we raised 1,375 Bitcoins with that idea because of course it resonated.
Wow.
In a lot of people. It was a fucking success. Like we had our, out of Argentina of all places, and we had our coin, at one point I do have screenshots. It was like number 10 or something in the world. Like, and we didn't understand absolutely nothing about all of these market making, crypto trading. Just we were gamers. Like our idea was just, we want the coin for the game. And the problem is, like, the game itself, it would feature by Google, launch citable at Samsung Gear VR, launch citable on Oculus as well, a lot of downloads, a lot of everything, but never pick up speed or mass traction. Reason being, is still no users in VR. Nobody uses VR. I mean, yes, we use it. There's an audience, but there's not an audience. Audience is
too early.
It's still early.
Yeah,
today is early.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Today is early. So on one end we had that problem, and we're product people. Like with Mokens, we were worried about metrics, our product. On the other hand, the coin, like anything I would put on Twitter, on the coin will go up or will down, or it was like fucking crazy. Like we couldn't even understand how it worked. And or of course, all of our investors and people that actually invested and participated in the ICO and all that, they made millions of dollars. And of course, there was also a lot of people that lost a lot of money, like in any other, a token. And we were getting praise on one end and death threats on another end. You know what I mean? It was like, and for us, it was like, guys, like, we don't understand any of it. I love crypto and gaming. We need to do it right. Like this went completely out of control. And it was a massive success at the economic level, but it was not a great success at the gaming level. So, for many different reasons, we had to fold that company. We did everything open source, and it was great. It was a fantastic learning experience, but we picked the wrong platform. The platform was PC, because PC was crypto, and with all those learnings with Mokens, we said, these guys at Ethan Arena are doing this, Axis Infinity is doing that. And we thought the market and we invested in MVP, 5-on-5 soccer, real time, amazing characters. They could be NFTs or not. There was a lot, like a great thesis behind it. And we went to raise money to people that know us, that, either invested in the past with us or work with us, and they know our commitment and how we work. Like, we are product first. And so, we have this idea. We are investors for our own company. We're putting the band back together. We're trying to raise 2 million for, building this project. And we raised $2 million in 5 days compared to now. You know what I mean?
That is
like,
super fast now compared to
that was like, I was like, I just sent 3 emails and we were like, the round was over. Only one VC. All of the other ones are Asians because, I didn't even want VC because I prefer angels for pre-seed. This is pre-seed. We haven't done a seed round. This is pre-seed. And that allows us to actually, build a game, build a product. But the problem, Duke, is like what happened between end of 2021 with a war, of course, and until now, with everything that happened in crypto, for instance, Terra Luna, FTX, whatever, everything that happened, and of course, the bubble of play to earn burst. We couldn't, we've never released a token, and we've never released the NFT part because we wanted to build a game that had good metric first, and that's what we do, and then layer the other thing. Because for us, that's the natural thing to do. I couldn't never understand why a lot of people were launching NFTs and tokens before the game. You know what I mean? Like, for me, like, what's going on here? Like, you don't have a game. Like what are you doing? But of course, it's all these market dynamics behind, bullish, FOMO, and all of that. But it's borderline scam, because not all of them are scams. There are a lot of scams, of course, but not all of them are scams. There are hundreds of legit projects out there that, for whatever reason, some of them fail, some of them are struggling. And in our case, we did what we said we were going to do. Like, that's why I'm in such a great terms with my investors. And I was able to raise again from them another 800K like a few months ago. Because we told them, like, we love this blockchain stuff. We don't know how to implement it, because first we need to have a game that people want to play. That was always our thesis, and that's our thesis today. That's what we're doing. But the truth is that we started with a PC game, because crypto gaming was PC. 85 to 90% in 2021 was PC. There was just basically no mobile gaming with crypto, because it was not even allowed to publish on the store. So there was non-existent. Only jailbreaked Android phones will have crypto games, or some sort of installation of a game that works on PC and now you can play it on mobile. So for us, was definitely not a priority. We are PC gamers, so we were happy, but then when sort of the bubble burst, we understood that, first of all, our game feels really amazing on mobile. It's a mobile game. Of course, it feels great in PC because it's a soccer game, but it's 1 minute matches. Like, everything that we have, it is tailored for mobile. So we had to switch with a small, again, going back to start of small team. So we had to pause PC, which, by the way, now is already at the same level of mobile, and then build a mobile game, which has to do with a lot of optimization, redoing all of the assets, yada, yada. So we built a mobile game. We launched it. We are on open beta right now. And now we are catching up with PC, and we haven't launched anything related. Well, we met at that point in time, like a year ago or so. And we are working still with Fungis and integrating, because we want to launch what we call the Web3 path, which is an optional value-added experience to Mokens League. It's not a blockchain game. It's a traditional game. You go there, you have fun, you play, you compete, you do the same thing that you would do on Brawl Stars, on Clash of Clans, any of those games. You just go there for the fun, collect things. But we are working on a web app, which is a collectibles app, because I love NFTs. I love the concept of owning things. I mean, this is an NFT, right? I have a lot of NFTs. You know what I mean? I love collectibles and digital collectibles. Dude, I paid over $250 on Counter-Strike skins or more. Don't let my wife hear that. I'm a firm believer of collecting digital things. And we want to bring that into Mokens League. We are actually building that. We have a collectible albums that what we're working right now is to tie the web experience into the mobile experience. So basically this is an add-on experience. You can go to the album and collect and fill the album. And what do? You get rewards, and those rewards are redeemable in the game. That's why it makes sense for you to collect them. And it makes sense for you to do things in the game that will impact the album and unlock things. So and we've seen this done already in a bunch of other games, from Twitch or Amazon Prime gifts that you can collect and redeem and collect because you're a Prime member. You collect something that did you go and redeem in a game. So it's the same thing. You know what I mean? It's the same thing.
The technology is different. Yeah.
Absolutely, but that's our approach to Web3 gaming. Again, I'm a sucker for blockchain. I do think that blockchain is, after the internet, the most revolutionary technology that we've ever seen. Like us people in technology, we haven't seen anything more revolutionary. But and it's still very early. We are still at what I call the ISP level of the internet. Remember in the 90s where we were talking about IPs and ISPs and modems and DSL. So that's what we're talking about right now in blockchain. But fast forward 10 years and you talk to my mom and she doesn't know what powers WhatsApp, but she knows that she uses WhatsApp for her real estate stuff. And you know what I mean? Like, it's transparent. Blockchain will become transparent, and will become transparent as well on the integration of gaming. The thing is, like, we are living that sort of that mix and collision and gear connection. And that's why a lot of us are going to fail, but some of us are going to find it. Some of us are going to find what works in blockchain gaming. What is the actual value proposition that user says, this was it. Like, now this works. And we're trying to work on that. We're trying to figure that one out. It's a hard one, but it's important to be able to pivot. It's important to be able to find the right investors, to find the people that, dude, you have to understand that if we do things right, we can change how games are developed, perceived, and consumed for the next 20 years. That's what you are doing. That's what we are doing. That's what a lot of people are trying to do. We are not and who are we? The ones who survived the burst. The ones we were not trying to scam people with a token or selling, PNG for $100 million, that doesn't do nothing. We are the ones that survive, and from our companies are going to come the new standard for value-added proposition for private digital property, because that's what it is. It's digital property. It's owning of digital property in the inner internet, where we know today that for kids, digital things are more important than physical things. We know that. There are 100 studies about that. You ask a 10-year-old if they want Roblox money or if they want dollars. They don't care about dollars.
My kids do the same thing. Yeah.
Right.
It was unimaginable back in the days. I remember I bought some stuff from Diablo 2 trading stuff. I bought some stuff via an auction house. A sword or sorry or so it was abstract thing back then to pay real money for imaginary things. Now it's like a norm. Like, every kid does that. So coming back to Mokens League, what were your lessons from 25 years of making games that you have embedded into making Mokens League? What were the lessons that you've learned during your career that you made the Mokens League team, the Mokens League game better?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. And I would say the most important thing that I've learned, and one of the biggest failures come from this, right? From not following what I'm trying to follow right now, is you need to focus on the core mechanics that makes you want to play and replay your game. And I know that this sounds really trivial, but I think it's the most difficult thing to do. Finding that core gameplay mechanic, it is the most hard and important thing to do. If you take Diablo, I'm a Diablo fan as well. I know that you're a Diablo fan as well. I can see your
Yeah.
posts in that. So I'm a hardcore Diablo fan. Like I played FIFA, Counter Strike, PUBG, and Diablo. I would say I play other things, but that's 90% of what I play in my life. Um, if you take Diablo 1 today, and if you take Diablo 4, or if you take Counter Strike 1.6 or 1.1, I started playing beta 5.2, right? Or if you take Counter Strike 2, the core mechanics is exactly the same thing.
Oh yeah,
Exactly the same thing.
I agree, 100%.
There are, of course, we can talk about the visual stuff, or we can even talk about the different dopamine, triggers that we have right now, which of course are better, much more refined. But
Yeah,
the core
microtransactions.
mechanics, even one thing that I love that they did in Diablo 4 is that they went back and added, of course, they are tuned, but the Diablo 1 sounds for dropping stuff, they were redesigned because that triggers a certain thing in your brain that it will just flex on the dopamine, trigger, boom, and it just works. Same goes for Counter Strike. They made everything new, but the travel times, like the amount of time that take you to move your character from one place to one position to another, those are the same. The recoil system, they try to make it the same. You know what I mean? Like these little things that you don't see that are part of the core mechanics are there. So in Mokens League, what I tell to my team, we need to just, I don't care if it's PC, I don't care if we're going for Steam Deck or going for mobile. We kind of compromise what we're looking for, which is fast, fun, easy to play, and fun to watch. 1 to 3 minute experience, fast paced soccer game, Nintendo style. We, if you will, we've copied, because we haven't copied, Super Mario Strikers for Nintendo 64. That's our north. We're not talking about FIFA. We're not talking about Winning 11. We're talking about Nintendo Super Strikers NAS, Nintendo 64 system. Why? Because that was perfect. That was perfect. Perfect. The pitch size of Mokens League, the character size, the ball size, everything is exactly the same as those games, because we actually take it to the pixel by pixel. And in copying the greatest of all time, I don't think I think it's an honor, because we're not just copying it's just soccer, right? But that works. And for us, that sort of mechanic, pursue is the most important thing for us. Like, that's our north. Keeping the game where we think it's fun, because some people say, I don't like it. That's fine. It's an objective, a subjective thing. But for us, it's that. Try to focus on that. And the other thing is, like, it needs to perform. So one thing is, like, you need to like it, but the other thing is, like, it needs to be well done to the level that we can. Because the reality is, like, we're not in the 90s anymore, and we're not in the early 2000s where you can put up a prototype that doesn't work, but people will play it anyways, because there's not a lot of offer right now. There is a plethora of amazing games that are really well done, and they have very good mechanics. So you are competing against all of those. But not only that, you're competing against TikTok, you're competing against YouTube Shorts, you're competing against a lot of other micro entertainment, dopamine trigger applications that are out there, that you're competing for their time. So it need to be well done, and you need to follow that core mechanic sort of principle. All of the other things, like even the Web3 part, that's an add-on. That will work only if the core experience is good. So that's the answer. Like, we try to focus there. That's my expertise. Like, I've done that wrong many times over, falling into the threats of monetization, or whatever VC thinks that they want, or marketing analysis made from people that never touch a game in their life, or things like that. I've done that, and that's a mistake. Like, gamers, we know you have to stick what it works, and then try to, of course, layer all of those things that are a commodity right now.
Yeah, so many indie developers and small studios out there, they don't understand that, and they try to make
Right.
the game, fluffy, beautiful, and the core mechanics just like there. Last question before we end the show. It was super good to hear your lessons from you. What are your thoughts on the future of gaming? Like, what's gonna be the biggest things coming in the next 5 years?
Oh, that's a great one. I do think that we are going to see an, um, a very important uptick in mixed reality games. I think that the future, definitely not VR. VR is going to be there, but it's going to be mixed reality. I've been playing around a lot with everything that is out there. Not the Apple one, but I understand what Apple is doing right now. I think that mixed reality, it's going to be massive, and entertainment in mixed reality is going to be massive. I do think that there's something there, and for the most part, I do think that mobile gaming is going to keep on growing. But we are going to be entering what I call, not I call, is one of my CTO actually said it the other day, the era of fast gaming. Casual gaming or hyper casual
hyper casual
gaming.
games.
Yeah, casual and hyper casual are going to merge in this sort of competition for YouTube Shorts and TikTok Reels kind of thing. We're going to be seeing that, not because I like that, but we're going to be seeing a lot of things like that, and maybe with a lot of interaction from the user, like maybe Reels that are actually games or things like that. Something in that space is going to happen. But then I do think that traditional gaming, it is going to still be there. If you take a look at the metrics, like PC gaming, that it was dubbed dead, like many times over, it just keeps on growing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Steam,
Like
14,000 titles last year. Yeah.
yeah, so I do think that that's going to keep on growing. That's going to keep on growing. And the truth is, like, the market is getting bigger and bigger. Like, the truth is, like, we have more gamers right now today that we had in history, and it's just going to keep on growing. So I think that there's going to be a market for everybody. But I do believe that large gaming corporations are going to take a hit, because you are going to be able, everything is going to get atomized, right? So you need to have probably smaller companies that spend less money to maintain. You cannot. There are not going to be a lot of AAA hundreds, thousands, of millions of dollar titles. I don't think that we are going to keep seeing that. But the same thing that happened in Hollywood, that there's a lot more series right now being produced, and people only watch 3 episodes. That's the average. That's what we're going to get in gaming. Much less Hollywood Oscar movies and a lot more TV series. And I do think that gaming is going to follow in that path. A lot more really well done small games that are maintained by studios that spend less money and are easy to maintain, easy to sell, easy to acquire, easy to disband if things goes wrong, than just having amazing titles coming from these, very big corporations that take 7-10 years to develop. I think that's going to be a niche. Diablo 5 is probably going to be niche. It's going to be big, but niche. It's not going to be the title that everybody was waiting for 12 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's
that was in
that's
the
not
past.
gonna
Like
happen.
that Blizzard
Yeah.
has gone. So
I
it
think,
is super refreshing to not hear anything about AI. So that's good. So
Yeah.
I've had so many conversations about AI.
I mean,
So
AI, dude,
yeah.
AI was probably I won't say invented, but it's invented in video games.
It's a tool.
Go
It's
play,
reinvented.
right?
And
Go
the
play
most important
Quake 3.
thing, well,
You know?
games are gonna be games. It's gonna be about fun. It's gonna be about that core mechanic that
Absolutely.
you have said, and AI is just
Absolutely.
gonna fasten things up, make things
Absolutely. You'll
made
probably need less
cheaper.
developers.
Yeah,
You
probably.
probably have something that help you to make the quests. You probably have, I don't know, AI animator that you just write whatever animator you want and you just do that. And it's amazing because you're probably gonna have smaller teams doing much more games or more quality games. I don't think that EA is going to replace like the creativity for making a game,
Of
something
course not.
crazy like
No,
that.
no.
I don't think
AI
so.
wouldn't do that. Well, thank you so much, Martin. It was
Thank you, man.
super insightful, and
For having
yeah.
me.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to us, and hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you very much, Martin.